على آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. To proceed. Last time we were talking about do you brothers, you remember, and sisters, do you remember what we were talking about last time? We were talking about al-Hadi wal-Udhiyah. Hadi comes from Yuhdi, from to give a gift, which is in Hajj you give a gift, an offering, particularly, in certain cases it is just like a gift to acknowledge Allah's ni'mah or Allah's favor on you, allowing you to make Hajj and Umrah combined, whether it is tamattu or Qiran. Sometimes it's to make up for a wajib that you missed. Sometimes it's to make up for a mahzur or a prohibition that you committed. And sometimes it's to make up for missing the Hajj or being prevented from proceeding, or ihsar. That is Hadi in Hajj. Udhiyah is what we don't have to be in Hajj to make Udhiyah. Udhiyah is the sacrifice, comes from yudahi, which means to sacrifice. And Udhiyah is the animal that we sacrifice, starting from goat or sheep and going up from there, cow or camel. It's the animal that we sacrifice on the day of Eid after the prayer up until the end of the second or the third day, as we will come to say, inshallah, the second or third days of Ayyam al-Tashriq. So from the 10th after Salah all the way up to the end of the 12th or end of the 13th day of the Hajj is time to make the Udhiyah. And Hadi and Udhiyah, like I said, this is maybe sort of a practical application of what we have been covering before. Since we're going to be talking about shedding blood a lot, So the idea here, some people have an issue with this, not you. I am not talking to you, because I don't need to just create doubts in people who have certainty. But I'm talking about some people who have reservations, some people who have sort of ethical contentions here about the idea of sacrificing animals for God. Why would a God need animals to be sacrificed, to be subjected to this pain and horror, to please Him? I just want to say one thing. For all the animal eaters, the question is really invalid. All carnivores or omnivores, they should not be asking this question. They should not have any contention. They should not have any ethical sort of any difficulty with this, because they eat animals. The difference between Udhiyah and the mass production, which is unethical to some extent, this industry of mass production of meat, the difference between the Udhiyah and this is that Udhiyah is something that you do with care and compassion and excellence and perfection, and it is on a limited scale, and it is some meat that you will share with others. Instead of eating it all, you will share this with the poor, the needy and the poor, and the people who did not have a chance to eat meat, maybe for weeks or months. So carnivores and omnivores, please just stay out of this discussion, because it just doesn't make any sense. Herbivores and vegetarian people, herbivores, they may say, I have an ethical ethical reservation. I think it is not moral to kill animals for food. And for those people, the issue here is is this. Well, it's just like part of the problem of evil, part of suffering. Allah, God, or even you can come down to say nature. It is natural that the creatures in this universe Some of them are herbivores, some of them are omnivores, and some of them are carnivores, and some of them are omnivores. They eat, plants and meat. Isn't that true? Like lions, you can't really give lions barsim, like, clover, Yeah, they will not appreciate that, and certainly it's just not enough for them. It's not going to be good. They're going to be emaciated. They're going to is that part of the nature or not? Part of the nature. Benjamin Franklin opened the fish one day. It's in the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. He opened the fish one day, and he found in that fish a smaller fish. And he said, if you eat one another, I don't see any more of the dilemma in eating you. So it is just part of the food cycle. That is a fact of life. God created His creations to be this way. And God put nutritional value in meat sources that is not present in plant sources. That is why certain carnivores will die if you don't give them proper nutrition. And for omnivores, there's diversity and variety of, there's ample research out there, and many experts will confirm that there is nutritional value in meat that is superior to the counterparts in plants. So God created this. When we say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and when we do the proper slaughter, proper tazkiyah of the animal, we are saying to God, this it would have otherwise been unethical, would have other. Thank you. We recognize that upon your permission, by your approval, by allowing us, subduing these animals for us, or allowing us to use these animals for food, we recognize that it is your allowance that made this ethical. Otherwise, it would have been ethical. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, مَلْعُونٌ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ الْحَيَّ غَرَضًا. Cursed is he who will take a living creature as a target. Up until recently, in the Olympics, they used to use living pigeons and stuff as targets. So the Prophet ﷺ, 1400 years ago, he said, cursed is he who takes as a target, or for a target, a living creature. So even if you shoot like a mouse for play, that is not appropriate. I mean, you could certainly kill a mouse because or a snake or a scorpion, or like particularly al-fawasiq comes, but you don't use a living creature, any living creature, as a target for sport. And when you do this, you will have to do it with compassion and mercy, and you have to do it with perfection. وَإِذَا قَتَلْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَ. And if you kill with ihsan. So you will have to figure out which way what is the most humane way to kill a mouse. You want to that's effort that you need to put into the killing of mice or the killing of any creatures. So then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us this permission, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us to use certain animals for food, and we recognize this. Now, if you have certain ethical sort of contentions against the mass production and the industrialization of this meat production, certainly you're welcome to have, you're encouraged to have those thoughts. The abuse of animals, the mistreatment of animals in the industry of mass production, I welcome you to have those thoughts, and these indicates that you have, you're conscientious. But that does not mean that it is unethical in principle to eat meat or to use animals for food. I hope that's clear. And that's basically the agreement of the majority of human beings. So last time we were talking about al-Haj and al-Udhiyah, and we said that al-Haj and al-Udhiyah are sunnah, and we said, that there are certain cases where the Hadi in Hajj, sacrifice in Hajj becomes obligatory. We mentioned that, but this sunnah becomes obligatory by Nazr, And we talked about the valid and invalid adahi, the conditions to make an animal valid. Those of you who were present, do you remember conditions to make that you can't sacrifice a sick animal, you can't sacrifice a lame animal, you can't sacrifice an animal that has, whose horn has been cut off, intentionally, not born like this, but broken. And you can't sacrifice like a one-eyed animal. And then we said there are certain animals that are preferred, and we said a camel would be best, and then a cow. But if you will do 1/7 of a cow or a goat, then a goat is better. A da'n is best, which is sheep. The best is sheep. Second is goat. If you will do 1/7 of a camel or a cow, but if you will give the whole cow or the whole camel, then that's better because it's more. But if you will do 1/7 versus a goat or sheep, then one sheep is best, then one goat, and then 1/7 of a camel, and then 1/7 of a cow. Then we talked about how you slaughter them in terms of the camels and the cows and the sheep and what you say. And we said the last thing that we addressed last time was that it is preferred that a Muslim would do the slaughtering because it's an act of worship, and you want the person who does this on your behalf to have the sort of harmony of intents here between the wakil and the muwakkil, between the agent and the authorizer. And if you have harmony of intent, then that is best, but it is not required. So you can give power of attorney, authorize a non-Muslim to slaughter on your behalf, given that these are Christians or Jews. And we said, وَإِنْ ذَبَحَهَا صَاحِبُهَا فَهُوَ أَفْضَلُ. And if the person who is making the sacrifice did it by himself, then it is best. Then today we will finish, and Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah said, وَوَقْتُ الذَّبْحِ يَوْمَ الْعِيدِ بَعْدَ صَلَاةِ الْعِيدِ إِلَى آخِرِ يَوْمَيْنِ مِنْ أَيَّامِ التَّشْرِيقِ. Now discussing when to slaughter, he said the time of slaughtering is from the day of Eid, after the Eid prayer, until the end of the second day of Tashriq. It's on the day of Eid, from the time of the prayer until the end of the second day of Tashriq. Keep in mind, the beginning of the time, the Prophet ﷺ said, من كان ذبح قبل الصلاة فليذبح مكانها أخرى ومن يذبح قبل الصلاة فليذبح بسم الله. So whoever slaughtered before the prayer, let him let him give another sacrifice or offering in its place. Whoever did it before the prayer. So the Prophet used the prayer here as the time limit of the beginning here, or the cutoff for the beginning of the time of slaughtering. So, and that is basically close to the agreement of the scholars. Some of them add al-khutbah, and some of them add enough time for the imam to slaughter. But it seems from the statement of the Prophet ﷺ that whoever slaughtered after the salah, their slaughter is acceptable. Their slaughter is acceptable, and it is the first salah in the neighborhood. First salah in the neighborhood. If there is more than one salah, then the first salah in the neighborhood. After the salah finishes, people could go and make their udhiyah or make their sacrifice. Then the end of this is controversial. The Shafi'is and one report, so the Hanbalis here said the end of this, like the Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik. So Imam Ahmad agreed with the Imams Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik that the end of this is the second day of Tashriq. Second day of Tashriq is the 12th. And another report in the Hanbali madhab, which is the less popular report, agrees with Imam al-Shafi'i, and it's the choice of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, that the end is the 13th, which is the last day of Tashriq. They cite reports from the companions. They add this position here, adds in addition to reports of the companions, أيام التشريق وأيام التشريق كلها أيام ذبح, that all of the أيام التشريق وكل أيام التشريق ذبح. All of the أيام التشريق, all of the days of tashriq are good for sacrifice, for slaughtering, for dhabh. But this report is controversial. It is certainly controversial. So these are the two positions. If you want to stay on the safe side, and that's what we try to always do, you want to stay on the safe side, you want to slaughter before the 12th, before the end of the 12th. So you could slaughter any time in the day or night from the time of Salat al-Eid until the Maghrib of the 12th, or the Maghrib of the 13th if you take the Shafi'i position. Next is Imam Qudamah said وتتعين الأضحية بقوله هذه أضحية والهدي بقوله هذا هدي أو إشعاره وتقليده مع النية. The particular animal becomes a sacrificial animal from the time one says this is an udhiyah, sacrificial animal, and for the hadi by saying this is hadi, and by marking it as hadi and garlanding it to put like something, like little shoes or little necklace or something on the animal to indicate, to mark it as a sacrificial animal. It's called taqleed. Qilada is garlands. Garlanding is taqleed. Garlanding it with that intention that it will be sacrificial animal. Why is it a big deal? Why is it designated? It's designated now. It is designated now. The fact that it is designated now, we can't sell it now. You will have to sacrifice it. But you could replace it by one that is better to sacrifice. But you can't just sell it and forget about it. But if something happened to this animal, after you have designated the animal, if something happened to this animal beyond your control, you're not required to replace it. Without negligence on your part, you don't have to replace it. Okay. Then, وَلَا يُعْطِي الْجَازِرَ مِنْهَا شَيْئًا. The butcher should not be given any part of the meat for his payment. وَلَا يُعْطِي الْجَازِرَ بِأُجْرَتِهِ شَيْئًا منها. Because of the hadith of Ali radiallahu anhu that the Prophet ﷺ commanded him to take care of his camels, and he said, وَلَا تُعْطِي الْجَازِرَ مِنْهَا شَيْئًا, or نَحْنُ نُعْطِيهِ مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. Don't give the butcher any part of it. We will give him from our own. So hadi or udhiyah, you do not give the butcher any part. But can you give the butcher parts of it as a gift? Yes, you can. But you really have to be honest. It should not be like a sort of like an unwritten agreement between you and the butcher that you will give him, like, let's say $10 and the hide or the skin of the animal. And had you not given him the skin of the animal, you would have given him 15, not 10. That sort of unwritten agreement is inappropriate. But if you give him his full payment, and then on top of this, you give him a gift, then that would be fine. Okay. Then the Sheikh said, وَالسُنَّةُ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ مِنْ أُضْحِيَتِهِ ثُلُثَهَا وَيُهْدِي ثُلُثَهَا وَيَتَصَدَّقُ بِثُلُثِهَا وَإِنْ أَكَلَ أَكْثَرْ جَازْ وَلَهُ أَنْ يَنْتَفِعَ. Okay. So how to divide the sacrifice? The sunnah is to eat 1/3 of one's sacrifice, to give away 1/3 as gifts, and to give away 1/3 in charity. And if he ate more, it is permissible. If he ate more, it is permissible. It's not really cut and dry, but it has been prescribed, traced all the way up to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And so there are some reports from the Prophet ﷺ about the division. But if you eat more, then it is okay. However, if you eat all of it, then it does not count as udhiyah. You just have to give a little bit, an ounce or something to somebody in charity. If you give it all in charity, it will be good. You don't have to eat it. The sunnah is to eat it. It is essential that you give part of it in charity. If you give all in charity, you would have violated the sunnah. The sunnah is to eat a little part, at least. Because, Ali radiallahu anhu with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after they sacrificed the 100 camels, they took a piece of meat from each one and boiled the meat, and they drank from they ate a little bit of meat, and they drank from the soup, so that they would have basically taken a share of each one of the 100 camels by drinking a little soup. So the sunnah is to eat a part of it, and that is even, نوع من إكرام الفقراء أيضا. You're sharing the same meat with the poor people, so it is the same animal that you are given in charity. You're eating part of the same food that you're sharing with others, so it's like sharing. But you have to give at least the one part, a little bit of it in charity. وإن أكل أكثر جاز. Okay. وله أن ينتفع بجلدها وله أن ينتفع بجلدها ولا يبيعه ولا شيئا منها. Okay. He said he may benefit from its hide, but may not sell it or any part of it. That's given. If you can't give the butcher part of it, then you certainly can't sell it. It is all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's all sacrifice for Allah. It should be given to the poor in its entirety, or you share with them, which is preferable, to share with them in eating the meat. And then he said, فأما الهدي فإن كان تطوعا استحب له الأكل منه لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر من كل جزور ببضعة فطبخت وأكل من لحمها وحسى من مرقها. As we said, if the hadi was voluntary, it's recommended to eat from it. For the Prophet ﷺ commanded that the piece of each camel he sacrificed to be cooked, and he ate from the meat and drank from its soup. ولا يأكل من كل واجب إلا من هدي المتعة والقران. He should not eat from a mandatory offering except for the offering of the tamattu and the qiran, because Aisha said دخل علينا بلحم بقر فقلنا ما هذا فقالوا ضحى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على أزواجه. They brought to us beef, and we asked, what is this? And they said that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم sacrificed cows on behalf of his wives, So that was for their tamattu and qiran. That was for their combining of Hajj and Umrah. That is why the Prophet sacrificed on behalf of them for their tamattu and qiran. So for tamattu and qiran, you could eat from your sacrifices. Aqeeqah, certainly you could eat from your sacrifice. Udhiyah, certainly you could eat from sacrifice. Any sunnah sacrifice you eat. But if this sacrifice is for making up for missed wajib, or committing a prohibition, or fawat or ihsar, missing the Hajj or being prevented from proceeding, or nadhr, then you don't eat from it. It all goes into charity, because unless it is sunnah, you don't eat from it. The only time when it is wajib, but you will eat from it, is what? Tamattu or Hajj. So just remember this. If this is sunnah, I can eat from it. If this is wajib that I sacrifice, I cannot eat from it, except in tamattu and qiran. Okay. So then the Shaykh said, وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من أراد أن يضحي فدخل العشر فلا يأخذ من شعره ولا من بشرته شيئا حتى يضحي. Some etiquettes now, concerning the person who will make udhiyah. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever wants to sacrifice should not trim his hair or nails or clip his nails from the beginning of the first 10 days of the Hijjah until he sacrifices. Okay, so that is a peculiar position in the Hanbali madhab, that it is forbidden, it is haram that you clip your nails or trim your hair if you intend to sacrifice beginning on the first of the Hijjah until you have sacrificed. The Malikis and the Shafi'is said it is only detested, disliked. The Hanafis said it is permissible. How did they contest this hadith? They said that Aisha said, كنت أفتل قلائد هدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم لا يعتذر شيئا كان يفعله. That I used to weave or twist the qala'id, the garlands of the offerings of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and afterwards he would not abstain from anything that he used to do. He would not abstain from anything. So that's why the Hanafis contested. So the Hanbalis will come back and try to rebuttal this and say that this is not about Udhiyah, this is about Hadi, so these are two different scenarios. And the Hanbalis will also say that maybe she meant that, certain things, like marital relations or certain things, but she did not necessarily, she was not particularly talking about clipping the nails and trimming the hair, because this is specific, and what Aisha was speaking about is more general, and the specific overrides the general. So for specifically trimming the hair or clipping the nails, we still stand by our position that it is forbidden once the 10 days start. But the Hanafis will not stop, by the way. But also there is a rational argument against this, is that Udhiyah in and of itself is a sunnah. So now you're attaching an obligation hinging an obligation on a sunnah. That in the first place, Udhiyah is a sunnah. So one of the etiquettes of the sunnah, Udhiyah is sunnah or wajib? Udhiyah is sunnah, right? For other than the Prophet ﷺ, Udhiyah is sunnah. Mu'akkada, emphasize sunnah. But, so, like, how do you hinge, like, an obligation not to trim, prohibition to trim, or clip your nails on something that's eventually a sunnah, not a wajib. But the Hanbalis could always say that this is the apparent statement of the Prophet ﷺ, or just stick to the apparent statement of the Prophet. When the 10 days start, if you intend to make the Udhiyah, don't clip your nails or trim your hair, and we don't care about anything else. Anyway, so it's just back and forth. So there is some disagreement over this issue. The Shafi'is and Malikis, they took a middle position, and they said it is detested, disliked, not forbidden. Now, moving on to, and forgive me, I'm just going to have to use a little bit more of your time, but anyone who does have an engagement, you could certainly leave whenever you please. But we have to finish this because it's the last day before our Hajj break, and this is the last chapter in Hajj. We'll quickly go over it. It is a very small chapter. We'll quickly go over it. Bab al-Aqiqah, the chapter on Aqiqah, or sacrifice for a newborn. The Shaykh, Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah ta'ala said, وَهِيَ سُنَّةٌ عَنِ الْغُلَامِ شَتَانِ مُكَافِئَتَانِ وَعَنِ الْجَارِيَةِ شَاةٌ. It is sunnah for the boy 2 sheep or goats that are equal, and for the girl 1. It is sunnah for the boy 2 sheep or goats, and for the girl that are equal, and for the girl 1. Because it is sunnah because the Prophet ﷺ said, مع الغلام عقيقة فأهرق عنه دمه وأميت عنه الأذى. Aqiqah is prescribed with the birth of every newborn. So offer a sacrifice on his behalf and remove the filth off of him. And عن الغلام شاتان مكافئتان. This is a hadith that is reported from Aisha. وعن الجارية شاة, on behalf of the boy 2 goats, and on behalf of the girl 1 goat. And someone may say, why are they not equal? Well, it is a matter of perception. Certainly they are equal in the sight of God. They're equal. ذكر وأنثى بعضكم من بعض. You are from each other. Equal certainly in the sight of God. Equal in their humanity. Equal, intrinsically equal. But for the Sahaba radhiyallahu anhum, and that is if you take this hadith, because this hadith also is not certainly established with certainty, and the Prophet ﷺ also sacrificed 1 sheep on behalf of al-Hasan. No one is better than al-Hasan, to sacrifice more on his behalf. But there is a hadith reported from Ali radiallahu anhu where the Prophet ﷺ only sacrificed 1 sheep on behalf of al-Hasan ibn Ali radiallahu anhu, his own grandson. And he told Fatima radiallahu anha to shave his head and to give the weight of his hair in charity. So someone may say that this has been sort of countered by another hadith, and it is 1 shah for both, but the vast majority say it is 2 for the boy, 1 for the girl, and this hadith that is reported from Aisha does indicate that. So whenever you answer a misconception, you will have to basically present all of that we have in our heritage, leave room for people to take whatever position that they can take, because if they are not comfortable with the mainstream position and they took another position, that is better than having issues, difficulties. But then you will also need to make sure that you don't give equal weights to unequal positions, important. And lastly, it is also important that you provide some justification for the mainstream position. And the justification for the mainstream position is that, traditionally speaking, throughout the history, people, particularly in tribal societies, not only in Europe, who would be like an heir to the throne? It was the boy. So traditionally speaking, this was considered received by more sort of festive reception. And yes, did the Quran condemn them for receiving the news of the birth of a girl with sort of discomfort or resentment? Absolutely, the Quran condemned this and called it the way of the ignorant. But the fact is that the vast majority of them received the news of the birth of a boy with more festivities and more celebration and more joy, because this boy will then help them out in the field, will then be the heir to the throne, be economically more advantageous for them to have a boy. It has been always economically more advantageous, particularly in those societies. Nowadays, it may not be different, maybe a little different, but there is still some sort of pay discrepancy. But traditionally speaking, that used to be it. So therefore, to demand of them to show more gratitude or to spend more because they receive the news that will cause them to be even happier, that would be the justification of two sheep for the boy, 1 sheep for the girl. But then again, like I said, the Prophet sacrificed 1 sheep for al-Hasan ibn Ali, his grandson. So that had also to be taken in consideration. But it is important to say that this does not mean that this is basically the value. Certainly the value is not 2 sheep for the boy or 1 sheep for the girl. And it is not a reflection of the value, because they are intrinsically equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Sheikh said, يُذْبَحْ يَوْمَ So we talked about this. It's 2 sheep for the boy, 1 sheep for the girl. And then the Sheikh said, يُذْبَحْ يَوْمَ سَابِعِهِ وَيُحْلَقْ رَأْسُهُ وَيُتَصَدَّقْ بِوَزْنِهِ وَرِقًا. These should be slaughtered on the 7th day after the birth. In addition, his head should be shaved and charity should be given that is equal to the value of the weight of the hair in silver. Because the Prophet ﷺ, as Ali radiallahu anhu said, he sacrificed a sheep on behalf of 1 sheep on behalf of al-Hasan ibn Ali, and he said to Fatima, shave his head and give the weight of this in silver. And some of the scholars say in gold. Certainly it could be silver or gold if you can afford to give it. It's charity, so give more, it's good. فإن فات ففي 24 فإن فات ففي 14 فإن فات ففي 21 أو في 21. So if it is says here, if the 7th day passes, then on the 14th, and if that passes, then on the 21st. And there is, on the basis of a controversial hadith from Aisha radiallahu anha, the 14th and the 21st, on the basis of a controversial hadith from Aisha radiallahu anha, but it has been accepted, and So you try to do it on the 7th. Keep in mind that slaughtering needs to be on the 7th. But if you want to have, the party is recommended or not? Is recommended. Is required or not? No, it's not required. So Aqiqah means what? Slaughter an animal. Can you slaughter an animal in Malaysia or, any place? Can you slaughter an animal in Malaysia online for Aqiqah? Yes, if you get power for everything, yes. But it will be, the sunnah is to do what? Tatbukhu. You cook it yourself and you invite people to it. And those people will be rich and poor because the community shares. The community sort of shares. And it brings people together, to share food together. And can you imagine the beauty of this concept? Is a beautiful concept, particularly when you have like these events that the Prophet ﷺ sort of reprimanded those who invite the rich to them and keep out or away the poor. It is. You see, one of the problems that creates so much sort of dissension within societies is the erosion of the public space, where people don't get to share common experience together within the community. One of the Harvard professors called it the boxification, where the people who go to like baseball games and stuff, they sit in a box, an air-conditioned box that receive different types of services, different type of treatment. They don't share the common experience with the rest of the folks. The rest of the folks out there are having a completely different experience from this experience. And he said that this is growing more and more in America. It did not used to be like this. And even the difference between first and second grade tickets, it used to be marginal, very minimal difference between the different grades. But now it's becoming more and more. So people don't share common experience with each other. And that is what Islam, everything. People talk about how Islam does not really focuses on the individual relationship with God, and it does not talk about the collective and the social welfare. Crazy stuff. Whoever said that? Where do they make? How do they make this stuff up? Everything is about the social welfare, or a lot of things are about the social welfare, social well-being, and cohesion, and so on and so forth. Salat al-Jama'ah is about this. Salat al-Eid is about this. Hajj is about this. Zakat is about this. Everything is about this. So anyway, the sunnah is to cook the food and to bring people, all the people, the rich and the poor, to share that joy of receiving a newborn by one member of the community. So you choose the day that will be most convenient for the rest of the people. Slaughter on the 7th, and then choose a day that keep them with meat for later until you choose the day that will be most convenient for all the people. Yes. No counting the day of birth. So the day of birth, the 7th, will be the 14th. So is that not counting? You add 7 days. So if the day of birth is 7th, then it is the 14th. So you're not counting the day of birth. You're adding 7. If it is 7, then it is the 14th. Yeah. Then وَيَنْزِعُهُ أَعْضَاءً وَلَا يَكْسِرُ لَهَا عَظْمًا. He should detach its limbs from the joints and not break the bones. He should detach its limbs from the joints and not break the bones. وَيَنْزِعُهُ أَعْضَاءً وَلَا يَكْسِرُ لَهَا عَظْمًا. Who said this? Aisha radiallahu anha. This has been reported from Aisha radiallahu anha, but it has been reported from Ata, and it has been reported from others. Try to do it. If you can. If you can't, this is not, the report is controversial and it is not traceable to the Prophet ﷺ, and it is not even up to Aisha, it is not mandatory. So, but it is preferable, since some of the righteous predecessors advised it, that we cook the whole thing without breaking it, out of tafa'ul, optimism, that the newborn will not have breaks or will not suffer from injuries. Lastly, وَحُكْمُهَا حُكْمُ الْأُضْحِيَةِ فِيمَا سِوَى ذَلِكَ. It is like Udhiyah concerning the rest of the rulings. It is like Udhiyah concerning the rest of the rulings. Everything that applies. Which animal can you sacrifice? Which animal can you not sacrifice? Everything applies. Everything that we said about the Udhiyah before applies to Aqiqah. There are two differences between Udhiyah and Aqiqah. What are the two differences? One is Aqiqah needs to be a separate animal. So you can't really do 1/7 of a cow or 1/7 of a camel and say that this is Aqiqah. Aqiqah needs to be a separate animal, one goat, one sheep. If you want to sacrifice one cow, one camel, that is fine. But it has to be an animal for that newborn. The second thing that is different is that with Aqiqah, you could actually sell the head and you could sell the skin and stuff and give the money in charity. Because the Aqiqah, what is the intent of Aqiqah here is the party and the celebration and the joy and so on. And this stuff does not serve that purpose. Serve the purpose, the skin and the head and stuff. They don't particularly serve that purpose. So you could sell them and give that money in charity, which is different from Udhiyah. And that is in Aqiqah. Sorry for taking too long and for being late. We took 17 minutes over time. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.